So we're going to call this, this conference. We wanted to give you an update on the shooting in the 3-2, what seems like a week ago, but was actually yesterday morning. Yeah, and so so first we'll have Chief Pichardo have some comments, and then we'll have Chief Maloney give you an update on where we are in the investigation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. As you know, this profession is not an easy one, and Wednesday's morning's incident demonstrates the dangers that police officers face every single day. There's no such thing as a quote-unquote routine call. Police officers run towards the unknown, often chaotic and violent situations. The officers from the 32nd Precinct acted bravely and valiantly, representative of the thousands of police officers on our streets each and every day. I'd like to introduce Deputy Chief Kevin Maloney.
Thanks, Chief. Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to bring us up to speed where we are in the 3-2 officer-involved shooting from yesterday. Before I begin, this is still an ongoing active investigation. You know, like the Commissioner referenced, we're about 36 hours post-incident at this point. So I just want to bring you up to speed where we are at this stage of the investigation. Wednesday morning at approximately 01:51 hours, uniformed officers assigned to the 3-2 precinct responded to a radio run of a 1039 harassment at 2785 Frederick Douglass Boulevard. The 911 call reported that there was the disturbance on the second floor hallway of that location. Upon arrival at 01:56 hours, the officers spoke to the 911 caller, obtained a further description of the subject, and then began a canvass of that location. The following information is based on a review of body-worn cameras and surveillance footage recovered from this location. As the officers began their canvass on the second floor, the subject is around the corner at the far end of the hallway. The subject is naked and in possession of a firearm. He takes a shooting stance and holds the firearm out, pointing in the direction of the hallway that the members of the service are in. The subject remains in this position for 2 to 3 minutes, positioned to intercept anybody coming around the corner. His actions are captured on the surveillance video that I'll show shortly. Police Officer Wintermule, the lead officer, as he conducts a canvass down the hallway, walks towards the subject. As Officer Wintermute reached the end of the hallway near the subject at approximately 02:04 hours, a violent struggle ensued. During the struggle, shots are fired by the subject and by Police Officer Wintermute. The shot fired by the subject struck Police Officer Wintermute on the left side of his chest and was stopped by his ballistic vest. This round was recovered from the vest and sent to the police lab for analysis. Results of this examination confirm that this shot was fired by the subject's firearm. Following the discharge, the subject's firearm fell to the floor, and a violent physical struggle over the officer's firearm continued between Officers Wintermute and the subject on the floor of the hallway. Additional officers on the scene responded down the hall towards the struggle. 2 of these officers, also assigned to the 3-2 precinct, discharged their firearms, striking the subject several times. Following the discharge, the subject was pronounced deceased on the scene by EMS. Police Officer Wintermute was removed to St. Luke's Hospital, where he was treated for non-life-threatening injuries. The subject of this incident has been identified as Victor Hernandez, a 29-year-old male Hispanic who was the super of that location. He has 6 prior arrests. They were all for domestic violence incidents, the last one being in 2014. Autopsy of Mr. Hernandez was conducted yesterday, and the toxicology results are pending at this time. I just want to show the video that was recovered from the surveillance hallway, just a small clip of the end of the video that captures the interaction between Officer Wintermute and the subject. That's the subject. The hallway that that Officer Wintermute comes down is to the right side of your screen in this video.
I'm sorry, that's the subject?
This is the subject here, yes. At the bottom of the screen there is the subject's firearm. That's where it's recovered by responding officers. Yep, you want to just, we'll play it one more time, a little slow down version.
It appears that Wintermute might have fallen down. Is that correct?
It appears based on a video, right. So the officers involved are equipped with body-worn cameras. Officer Wintermute also has a body-worn camera. His body-worn camera is damaged during this incident, so we were not able to view his footage. That camera's been sent out to Axon, out in Seattle for a forensic analysis, so we'll be able to see better. Based on a surveillance camera here, it looks like as a result of the impact, Officer Wintermute is knocked to the ground, hit and gets up, and the physical confrontation begins.
Did Hernandez shoot his dog before encountering police?
There was not a dog on the scene. There was a small animal that was discovered deceased in the hallway. It doesn't appear that that animal was shot. It appears that that animal was physically assaulted and died in the hallway.
Do you think that Hernandez did that?
It's still under investigation at this point.
Was the man wearing shoes?
He did have some footwear on his foot, and it looks like socks. Other than that, he was naked.
While they were struggling, the officer and Hernandez, did other officers fire in their direction? Because I understand yesterday you were still investigating whether or not this was perhaps friendly fire.
Right. So the Officer Wintermute and Mr. Hernandez go over to the right side of the screen. That's a hallway that continues further down that second floor. After the shots are fired during the struggle, additional officers respond from that location. They observe the struggle on the ground, and those officers fire from that location towards the subject on the floor as he's struggling with Officer Wintermute.
Is there anyone observing the initial struggle before the additional officers arrive? Or is the account based on what you're saying?
Well, we haven't spoken to Officer Wintermute yet. The account is based on this video here and the response of the officers as they respond down the hallway.
So then are you saying that Officer Wintermute, he was shot one time and that was from the suspect's bullet? Did any NYPD bullets hit this officer, yes or no?
We believe that he was shot one time. That round was recovered in his vest, and that bullet was tested at the lab. That bullet came from the subject's firearm.
And then whose bullets killed the suspect?
The additional officers responded at the scene. They discharged their weapon. Several of those rounds were recovered at autopsy, so we believe those come from those officers. They're just pending further analysis to confirm that.
But Wintermute also fired his weapon at the suspect.
Correct.
Were some of those his bullets in the...
The bullets have been recovered. It's just not been determined whose bullets they were at this point. Sure. Yes.
Sorry if you said this already. How many officers responded? How many discharges were there? And how many times did the suspect hit Hernandez?
Sure. So we had one sergeant and 7 police officers respond to the scene, and were on the scene at the time of the discharge. Out of those officers, 3 police officers discharged their weapon.
How many times do you remember?
Sure. Yep. So it looks like based on the state of load, we're waiting for forensic evidence to come back on the shell casings that were recovered on the scene, but it looks like a total of 17 times. 8 by one officer, 7 by another, and then 2 by Officer Wintermute.
How many hit Hernandez?
I'm sorry? There was 10 rounds recovered from Mr. Hernandez at the autopsy.
Do we know if his gun was legal?
We know that his gun was not registered here in New York City. His gun was purchased in 2016 out in Ohio. How it went from Ohio to the scene of this crime is still on part of the investigation, but the firearm was not reported stolen.
Do we know what kind of gun it was?
Sure, it was a Jimenez 9mm semi-automatic firearm.
Couple more?
Is there any talk from residents there? Obviously, he was acting erratically according to some of the people we spoke to, but others described him as a hard-working super. You said the last time he was arrested was like 5 years ago. They described him as a hard-working super. Toxicology reports are waiting, but was there any discussion that he had drugs or was using drugs or something? He just snapped?
That's part of the investigation. You know, there's some contraband that was recovered at a search warrant. It was recovered at the location. The results of that are going to pen lab analysis as well. And certainly his history and his background will be part of our investigation. There's nothing in department records that indicate he had a history of EDP or drug use or arrest associated with that.
The New York Post talked with his mom, and she's calling for an outside investigation. She says it shouldn't have happened. She's actually a police officer, too.
She is, yes. And like all officer-involved shootings, there will be an independent investigation. In this case, will be conducted by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office.
What about the 911 call? It sounds like the woman who reported was indicating that he was acting in a way that would typically be considered erratic, but yet this call was reported as a harassment. Can you explain what happened there?
Right. Well, her initial call, she reports that there's noise, a disturbance in the hallway, and that somebody's banging on the door. As we get there and we conduct additional information, we get more details about his conduct, but that's not part of her initial 911 call when we respond to the scene.
Was there any point at which you think or that anyone either requested ESU or maybe should have?
At this stage of investigation, we're conducting a canvass for the subject. He's not a barricaded perp. We're not even sure where he is at this point. And as you see on the video, as soon as the officers come around the corner, the subject's there. He discharges his firearm within seconds. Yes.
I'm just wondering, what do you think of the recent cluster of police shootings? Is this fluke? Do you feel like there should be more to it to that, or is it indicative of anything going on?
So we certainly have had a recent uptick in the number of officer-involved shootings. Just to kind of put that in perspective, the Force Investigation Division has been around since 2015, so we're responsible for conducting all the investigations into officer-involved shootings since that point. At this stage, this year, we have 47 officer-involved shootings for 2019. Just go back the last couple of years, I'll just kind of put it in context for you. In 2015, at this stage of the year, we had 54 officer-involved shootings. We had 60 in 2016, 43 in 2017. Last year, we only had 27, but last year was the lowest record since the NYPD has been keeping records of officers involved in adversarial shootings. And this year, we're back up to 47, though. So it's high in the last couple of weeks, but it's kind of on par where we've been consistently over the last couple of years.
If I could just ask any of you gentlemen up there, have any thoughts on Officer Pantaleo suing to get his job?
We're gonna stay on this topic.
Any questions on this topic? Sir?
Can you talk about training, because you did say, I guess, it wasn't a struggle, and we saw that there. But will you be talking about this in your training with the friendly fire incidents, because the officers, I guess, felt they had to fire in the direction of the officer and Hernandez as they were struggling?
Yep. So, sir, all of our officer-involved shootings, every single one of them, friendly fire or otherwise, go through a comprehensive review. Part of that review process includes a training bureau. We look at tactics, we look at response, we look at the way we deploy to scenes. All of that will certainly be part of this investigation as well, and any lessons learned or best practices we can derive out of this will be part of our training, and training bureau will be part of that as well.
Does any of that training in deal with an officer who is involved with hand-to-hand combat and with other does any of that training address how officers should respond with their firearms, or whether they should respond with their firearms when an officer is involved in a physical struggle with a suspect?
You know, so the training certainly deals with armed subjects and fighting with subjects. It's impossible to have a training program that covers all possible scenarios, but every time we see incidents, we kind of deploy the facts and circumstances of that incident into our training program. If it's something that we see on a consistent basis, then that will be developed and deployed through our training bureau for the officers on patrol.
Sit back and then Yasmin.
Back to those statistics for a second. Do you
Yep.
have numbers on people wounded, people killed by officers among those incidents?
So I do. So I go back to that 2015 analysis. This year, fatal officer-involved shootings where the subject's been killed is 10 this year. Over the last several years, it was 6 and 15, 7 and 16, 8 and 17, 4 last year, and like I said, 10 this year. Subjects injured during officer-involved shootings, it was 11 in 2015, it was 19 in 2016, it was 7 in 2017, 8 last year, and 11 so far this year.
I hate to do this to you, but can you repeat those numbers again?
We can get them to
I
you
mean,
after
you
the
guys
fact.
are whipping,
We'll get them to you through DeVore after the conference. Any other questions?
Can you actually demystify some of the police tactics involved? So when you get, and I know that these encounters are unpredictable and officers fear for their lives, but when you do get a harassment call and officers respond to a call like this and see someone is armed, what are the tactics involved? What are they trained to do? And having watched the videos, do you believe that the officers follow that training?
Well, it's certainly premature to comment in this case. This is still part of an active investigation. But the officers responded. They attempt to obtain additional information through the 911 call and additional sources that may be at the scene. And then, obviously, we're going to try to, take the perpetrator, identify his location, and take the perpetrator into custody. Depending on how that unfolds is going to dictate the officer's response. If they had an opportunity to engage him in dialogue, we could get emergency services there. We can get hostage negotiation there and peacefully take the subject into custody. That's always our goal. It doesn't always unfold like that, and each case we look at individually to see.
So in this case, there wasn't time. It sounds like you're saying there wasn't time to get ESU there.
By the time we identify where the subject is, the shot's already fired. When Officer Wintermute gets to the end of the hallway, the subject's right there. The rounds are fired within seconds.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Good? All right, sir. Thank you.
Just the number of people don't involve the officers. Those are just suspects.